The Matrix has you, Gautama. Attention, OGs and fellow geeks. Way back in 1999, The Matrix was released. Now, the first reel of the movie was the Trinity show, and she was absolutely fabulous. The second reel, we were introduced to Neo. So there he is. The protagonist of the movie is sleeping in front of his computer monitor. He looks up, and across the screen it reads, "Wake up, Neo," which is odd. The second line appears, "The Matrix has you," which blows his mind. And then the third line, "Knock, knock." And then there's a knock on the door. So our boy is just freaking out right now. Welcome to the movie. Now, something very, very similar happened to Gautama, who earned the nickname of the Buddha. If he was a real person, he might have been an archetype, and that's okay too, either way. So let us consider the infancy of the fabled Buddha. We are told that he was born to a king and a queen. And after his birth, very shortly after his birth, dignitaries came to pay their respects. It's kind of like when your mom and dad invite their friends to your bar mitzvah. So, but an unlikely person attended. He was not a musician. He was not a priest. He was not a dignitary. But he was a wild mountain yogi. And he came in and he held the child and began to cry. And the queen asked him why. He said, well, good news is he will grow up to either be a great king or a great teacher, the teacher of the world. But the bad news is that I will not live long enough to receive teachings from him. Shortly thereafter, the queen perished, and the king, like most kings, was primarily concerned with his legacy, tried to do everything he could to make sure that his son did not become the teacher of the world, but the ruler of the world. And so, in a remarkable degree of insight, he figured out that people turn to spirituality to fix something broken in their lives. So to prevent that from occurring, his father had an agenda, and that was to make his son's life like a heaven on earth. He had 3 palaces, a palace for every one of the 3 seasons in Indian culture at that time. He had every pleasure a young man could desire, but something shattered that illusion. The tale is told that on a day of a great parade, something caught his eye. And what caused his eye was a gathering of old men. He had never seen old men before. He'd seen older men, but not old, decrepit, toothless, mindless old men. Never seen that. And so his adventure continued. And then he discovered a sick house where people were just abandoned. They were not given care. They were not given medicine. They were just left alone in their solitude and their misery and their pain. That was heartrending. But then eventually he came upon a funeral pyre and last rites and weeping relatives and ashes floated upon banana leaves down the local tributary. And this was just a great metaphysical rope-a-dope. Boom, boom, boom. He was getting worked on the ropes by Mr. T. And it created a degree of hypersuggestibility necessary to pierce the cocoon, metaphoric cocoon in which he was raised. And so that very night, he forsook his kingdom, he forsook his castle, or palace if you prefer, and he decided to become a homeless mendicant so he could learn how to transcend the overwhelming experience of inevitable suffering, because death is an inevitability, and no one makes it to the grave without first falling ill. And those who have a long life are doomed to have old age. So he wanted to cut through this din of stress, like a hot knife might pass through room temperature butter. His first adventure was in institutionalized concentration. Like many of us, he surmised that, hey, if there's a big organization, they must have a clue. And so he found an organization, and he worked really hard. He worked so hard that his teacher said, you have become my equal, and I want to share this organization with you. You can be the co-leader until I pass away. And shockingly, the Buddha, who was already Gautama, who was already accustomed to power and leadership, said, no thanks. And in the words of Bono, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. And then he found a second institution, and everything repeated again. He worked really hard. He became the equal of the teacher without boasting. And the teacher said, hey, you've become equal. I will share my congregation with you. He said, thank you, but no thank you. And so at this point, he had, in his little corner of the world, he had experienced the zenith of what you could learn from institutionalized concentration. Now, why hadn't that worked? About a century prior to this, the Chinese teacher Lao Tzu taught the 81 poems of the Tao Te Ching. And in it, he explored yin and yang from a new perspective. Instead of a political perspective or a medical perspective, he offered yin and yang from a philosophical perspective. And he described that yang's attributes of being rigid, of being rigid, fearful, controlling, elitist, cryptic, competitive, and cruel might take you many places, but peace and fulfillment are not one of them. So the Buddha continued his journey, and this time he explored, and he transitioned from concentration to contemplation with a bunch of ascetics. And so he mortified the flesh. And when he got to the point where he was very close to death, he had an epiphany. And maybe you've heard this before. I don't know if it happened, but it sure is a nice story. There he was, starving to death, in the lotus position, in the woods, when by a stream, and he heard a boat paddling by. And in the boat, there were two people, and Gautama, sitting cross-legged in the woods, heard their conversation. And the old man was speaking to the student, and the student was probably thinking, yeah, no, duh. But for Buddha, in his state of heightened suggestibility, it really hit home. The teacher said, the sitar teacher said to his student, if the strings are too tight, they will break. And if they are too loose, they will not play. And for the Buddha, that was just an epiphany. He had been raised in debauchery. Now he had marinated in asceticism. He saw the folly of both extremes. And at last he turned onto the middle way. And that was the Buddha's breakthrough. And that was his gateway to the path of yin, to the path of being flexible, loving, laid back, egalitarian, lucid, cooperative, and kind. Specifically, the two main tools, the two keys that the Buddha used to unlock the door to free him from his own energy pod, his own power pod in the matrix, was mindfulness and meditation. Let's begin with mindfulness. Every time we inhale, whether we know it or not, we are accessing our sympathetic nervous system ensconced within the thoracic region of our spinal cord. It is not evolved to support active concentration. the opposite. It has evolved to simply support us in perceiving, and in doing so, vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Consider, if you will, the 12-syllable reminder that when we inhale, we are perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. What are some of the things we could notice? We could notice sights, sounds, sensations, flavors, scents, and the like. We could also emote, intend, reason, recall, and imagine. What are we to do with all this stuff? Well, we meditate, but how does that work? Simple. Every time we exhale, whether we know it or not, we are accessing the parasympathetic nervous system, ensconced within the lower lumbar region, as well as the tippy top of the cervical region of the self-same spinal cord. It's evolved to support both our physical relaxation as well as our mental release. And as we were reminded with exhalation's 12-syllable recitation, every time we exhale, we find ourselves relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. Now, the really cool thing about this is we don't have to force awareness. It's already wired into every inhalation. We don't have to force relaxation. That's wired into every exhalation. All we got to do is get out of our own way and let the autonomic nervous system ensconced within our spinal cord do the heavy lifting. I think it could be dandy to tie this up in a big red bow. Let's look at the 20th 55 verses of the root text or the source text of Dzogchen, known in English as the total space of Vajrasattva and known in Tibetan as Dorje Sampa Namka Che. It was composed in the Swat Valley in modern-day Afghanistan by Prahevajra, known in Tibet as Garab Dorje. Together, let's chant. Wonderful, the sphere of experience of the Buddhas is not a place to be found by searching. And like the phenomena of the six senses, it is also not an object we should grasp after. Those who search for it are like the blind reaching for the sky. When we indulge our yang tendencies, when we try to make it happen, we are much more like Agent Smith than we are Neo. We don't need drug-addled experiences. We don't need mantra-induced bliss. If all we do is notice whatever spontaneously comes up and relax as best we can during each exhalation, we will just wind up relaxing into the enlightenment that the Buddha found. I look forward to meditating and chanting with you. But first, I look forward to meditating and chanting with you after approximately 30 seconds of housekeeping. This is Lama Jigme Gyatso of the Buddha Joy Meditation School. For more than 30 years, I spent more than 8 hours a day every day, studying, practicing, mastering, and reverse engineering the teachings and techniques of each school of Buddhism so that you would not have to. Welcome to Meditate Like a Jedi, which is made possible due to the generosity of viewers just like you. So again, let us turn our attention to a practice text composed by Dudjom Lingpa, known as Tesar Ngondro. It was translated under the supervision of Chogdud Tulku back in the 80s or 90s. And it's been adapted and amplified by this silly-looking fellow right here. Now, here's my promise I'm going to make to you. If you got a question about trivia, piss off. But if you have a question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply it, type your question in great detail in the chat window. I'll be happy to answer the question for you. Now, if you want to pick a fight, I ain't got no use for you. But if you sincerely want help on the path, I'm your man. We're going to play with 4 categories of exercises. The categories we're going to play with would be energy work, Anu Yoga's energy work, Ati Yoga's mindfulness and meditation, Sutras, contemplations, and Mahayoga's mantra meditation. We begin, after all those vocabulary words, with Anu Yoga Tantra's energy work. So notice this heading is the color of a cumulus cloud. So together, let's press our palms into the puckered palm position and lift them overhead as we chant. O Master Lama, please come to this crown. No infallible, constant protector who knows all Dharma things. O Master Lama, please come to this crown. O infallible, constant protector who knows all Dharma things. O Master Lama, please come to this crown. O infallible, constant protector who knows all Dharma things. Welcome to the lazy bastard path of enlightenment. Because we're not visualizing, we're not holding our breath, we're not doing yoga positions. Just by playing with our hands and chanting, we're moving energy around our body in a way that creates really interesting contemplative experiences. And now, we turn our attention to Ati Yoga's mindfulness and meditation. As kids, most likely our first bike had training wheels. They were clunky, but they kept us from tipping over. Tonight's first meditation is also clunky. As we breathe in, we're going to silently and mentally recite, perceiving this very turbulent play of mind. And as we exhale, we could silently and mentally recite, relaxing into mind's non-graspable nature. So sit as dynamically as you can. Nice straight posture. Experience traction between your head and your tuchus. Place your right hand in your lap and your left hand upon that. Excuse me. We come now to the first sutra contemplation of our precious human life, which nurtures joyful enthusiasm, the 6th fold of the Buddha's 8-fold path. Now, on the lazy path to enlightenment, we don't have to spend hours, weeks, or years in contemplation. We simply chant something and then rest the mind, and we allow the subconscious to do the heavy lifting for us. Let us place our puckered palms before our sternum. And if you've just joined us, welcome aboard, matey. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. Together. It is extremely difficult to find such freedom and opportunities as we have. It is extremely difficult to find such freedom and opportunities as we have. It is extremely difficult to find such freedom and opportunities as we have. We've already lucked out. We don't live in a place where there's genocide. We don't live in a place where there's overt fascism. We don't live in a place where we get in trouble for meditating or contemplating. That's great. Hey, listen, I don't know about you, but my country is deeply flawed. But at least I have this opportunity to practice and teach. How about you? Let's remove the first of two metaphoric training wheels and reduce our mindfulness and meditation recitations from 12 syllables to just 3. As we inhale, so every time we inhale, we are already wired to perceive thanks to our sympathetic nervous system. So every time we inhale, we can step out of our own way by silently and mentally reciting, "Notice this." Similarly, thanks to our parasympathetic nervous system, every time we exhale, we are wired for physical relaxation as well as mental release. So, to step out of our own way, every time we exhale, we could silently and mentally recite, "Relaxing." When we were kids in elementary school, middle school, and high school, there were bullies. Sometimes it could feel like our circumstances or our body or our relationship or our mind itself was a big fat bully come to give us a swirly. When that happens, it can be helpful to play with labels. So, for instance, if you are experiencing physical discomfort, sensation, relaxing. If you are experiencing difficult emotions, emotion, relaxing. If you are recalling something deeply distracting, recollect, relaxing. If you find yourself stuck in fantasy, instead of fighting it or indulging it, we can harness the momentum to turn the wheels and gears of the enlightenment machine, metaphorically speaking, simply by playing with the labels imagine, relaxing. We come to the second sutra recitation pertaining to impermanence, which functions as a key to the wisdom of letting go, the first fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Together. Being impermanent, everyone who was born will die. Being impermanent, everyone who was born will die. Being impermanent, everyone who was born will die. Now let us remove the second of two metaphoric training wheels, reducing our mindfulness and meditation recitations from 3 syllables down to just 1. As we inhale, we could silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. And as we exhale, we could silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic verb ease, which functions as a synonym of relax. Now, allow me to take a moment to insult your intelligence. Converting three-syllable labels to just one syllable can sometimes require a bit of the old poetic license. So when we experience physical sensations, we could use the noun form. When we experience emotional sensations, we can use the verb feel. When we experience a memory, we can use the preposition then. When we can't find ourselves imagining, we could use the verb dream. We come to the third sutra recitation pertaining to interdependence, which can strengthen our experience of wishing love, the second fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Let's face it, what we do can help people or hurt people. Let's chant. The results of a virtuous and harmful actions are inevitable. The results of a virtuous and harmful actions are inevitable. The results of a virtuous and harmful actions are inevitable. Or as Dr. Atkins, MD, taught, we can generate cold pricklies or warm fuzzies. We come to the fourth sutra recitation pertaining to stress, which can serve as a key to compassion, the second fold of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. Together. The three realms we experience a samsara cycle are like a notion of suffering. The three realms we experience a samsara cycle are like a notion of suffering. The three realms we experience a samsara cycle are like a notion of suffering. We come to the fifth sutra recitation, a supplication or a key to enthusiasm, the sixth fold of the eightfold path. Remembering this, may my mind turn toward Dharma. Remembering this, may my mind turn toward Dharma. Remembering this, may my mind turn toward Dharma. Let me try something here. This. It's 16 feet. 18. Okay, 16. All right, we come now to the sixth sutra recitation of Seeking Refuge, a key to right enthusiasm, sixth fold. And let's do this while actually performing a, what's it called? A geriatric step back squat thrust. This is optional. This is not mandatory. Let's just try. There we go. From now until I reach the very heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in the Lama who embodies the three jewels. From now until I reach the very heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in the Lama who embodies the three jewels. From now until I reach the very heart of enlightenment, I take refuge in the Lama who embodies the three jewels. Oy vey! Okay, now there's a very big chance the screen might have gone berserk. Let me see if I need to fix anything. Okay. We come now to the eighth sutra recitation of generating conventional bodhicitta's right intention, the second fold of the Buddha's eightfold path. From now until samsara is emptied, may I bring about benefit and happiness for all beings as if they have each been my kind mothers. From now until samsara is emptied, may I bring about benefit and happiness for all beings as if they have each been my kind mothers. From now until samsara is emptied, may I bring about benefit and happiness for all beings as if they have each been my kind mothers. We come to Tantra's mandala offering training in generosity's kindness of communication, conduct, and commerce, the third, fourth, and fifth folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. To perfect the two accumulation, I offer the body's wealth and splendor of all my lives to the three jewels. To perfect the two accumulations, I offer the body's wealth and splendor of all my lives to the three jewels. To perfect the two accumulations, I offer the body's wealth and splendor of all my lives to the three jewels. And now we rest the mind. If you've just joined us, welcome aboard. If at any point you have a specific question, a good-hearted question, seeking help to improve your understanding of Buddhist meditation or Buddhist philosophy or how to apply them, type your question in great detail in the chat window. I'm happy to help you. So right now, every time we inhale, thanks to our sympathetic nervous system, we're wired to perceive vulnerably, passively, viscerally, and randomly. Therefore, during each inhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the demonstrative pronoun this. Similarly, every time we exhale, we're wired to access our parasympathetic system, parasympathetic nervous system in such a way that helps us to physically relax and mentally release. Therefore, during each exhalation, we could silently and mentally recite the monosyllabic verb ease, which functions as a synonym of relax. You'll notice a bunch of variables tend to be precise. These are not important. If you feel like playing with them, if you feel a strong emotion or a strong sensation or a strong memory or a strong fantasy, you can play with these labels. We don't play with these labels as a way to control our experiences, but as a way to harness the energy, to turn the metaphoric wheels and pulleys of our enlightenment machine. So our job is not to get stuck in perfectionism. Our job is not to search and strain to find the perfect label in the perfect period of time. Remember, each of us was born naked, screaming, and covered in filth. Life is messy. Give yourself permission to have a shallow learning curve. We return to Ana Yoga Tantra's energy work, and again we place our puckered palms overhead. Dorje Samba, inseparable from my Lama, is above the crown of my head. Nectar flows from him, purifying my obscurations. Om Vajrasattva Hum. Dorje Samba, inseparable from my Lama, is above the crown of my head. Nectar flows from him, purifying my obscurations. Om Vajrasattva Hum. Dorje Samba, inseparable from my Lama, is above the crown of my head. Nectar flows from him, purifying my obscurations. Om Vajrasattva Hum. As we relax into our exhalation, whatever we notice during our previous inhalation could feel as no graspable as a vast empty void. Like the illusion of the infinite azure sky on a bright and beautiful cloudless morn, which, although compelling to the eye, is not graspable to the hand. And now we come to our first taste of Mahayoga Tantra, the mantra, 4 exercises of mantra meditation focused on the wisdom of letting go. Specifically, I should say, awareness and letting go. Together, puckered palms return to the place in front of the sternum. How is it that as we inhale, all calm and lots of circumstances could appear quite vivid? Yet as we relax into our purifying exhalation, they could feel as non-graspable as a real or imagined paradise or body of light. So that was a great big long rhetorical question. We're now going to silently and mentally recite a very concise version of the same question as we inhale. As we exhale, we're going to physically relax as best we can while chanting this 6-syllable mantra. Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum. Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum. Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum. Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum, Om Vajrasattva Hum. How is it that as we inhale all common bodies, our homes could feel quite sensual? Yet as we relax into our purifying exhalation, they could feel as non-graspable as a real or imagined octopoiodom of light. Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum. Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum. Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum. Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum. How is it that as we inhale the interpersonal experience of common communication, our speech could be quite resounding? Yet as we relax into our purifying exhalation, it could feel as non-graspable as a real or imagined mantra of light. Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum. Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum. Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum. Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum, Vajra Sarva Hum. How is it that as we inhale we could best these minds' common functions clearly, yet as we relax into our purifying exhalation they could feel as non-graspable as a real or imagined syllable of light. Dissolving into light, diamond, mind, mother and father blend with me an experience of hot one. You know, I'm not sure. I think I forgot to do the mantra chanting for that. I apologize. Om Vajra Sarva, Om Vajra Sarva, Om Vajra Sarva, Om Vajra Sarva. Om Vajra Sarva, Om Vajra Sarva, Om Vajra Sarva, Om Vajra Sarva. Om Vajra Sarva, Om Vajra Sarva, Om Vajra Sarva, Om Vajra Sarva. Om Vajra Sarva, Om Vajra Sarva, Om Vajra Sarva, Om Vajra Sarva. Dissolving into light, diamond, mind, father and mother and father blend with me an experience of hot oneness. Dissolving into light, diamond, mind, mother and father blend with me an experience of hot oneness. Dissolving into light, diamond, mind, mother and father blend with me an experience of hot oneness. Puckered palms overhead. How am I like Dashi? How am I like Dorje and Alshore in the sky in front of me? My rude Lama could appear in the form upon my kata. How am I like Dorje and Alshore in the sky in front of me? My rude Lama could appear in the form upon my kata. How am I like Dorje and Alshore in the sky in front of me? My rude Lama could appear in the form upon my kata. Embodiment of all Buddhas of the treetops, most excellent Rude Lama, I pray to you. Embodiment of the Buddhas of the three times most excellent Rude Lama, I pray to you. embodiment of all Buddhas of the 3 times most excellent Lama, I pray to you. Hold me with your compassion in this and future lives, and in the Buddha bless me always throughout the 3 times. Hold me with your compassion in this future lives, and in the Buddha bless me always throughout the 3 times. Hold me with your compassion in this and future lives, and in the Buddha bless me always throughout the 3 times. Now we've finished Awareness of Letting Go's mantra meditation. And now we've come to Love and Letting Go's mantra meditation. Please place your puckered palms before your sternum. May all circumstances or lots of all beings now have their safety, good fortune, or boon. As a Buddha's real or imagined paradise, Pearland or Avanti. Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri. Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri. Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri. Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri. May all bodies of all beings now enjoy the beautiful, health depicted in Buddhist thought of the blissful body of a yidam of lore and archetype of enlightenment. Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri, Om Ahum Vadara Guru Manmaziri. May all relationships of all beings now be as loving and joyful as a real or imagined Buddhist communication symbolized by this 12-syllable mantra. Umahu Varera Guru Manmaziri 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 Welcome to this evening's live stream. The moment you have a specific question about Buddhist meditation, Buddhist philosophy, or how to apply them, simply type your question in great detail in the chat window. May all minds of all beings now be as wise and peaceful as the mind of a Buddha of law symbolized by a bija, one syllable seed mantra or clay drop. Umahu Varera Guru Manmaziri 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 May I receive all the blessings and empowerments of enlightened for speech and mind. May I receive all the blessings and empowerments of enlightened for speech and mind. May I receive all the blessings and empowerments of enlightened for speech and mind. Please place your puckered palms before your forehead as we invoke the blessings, the empowerment of Vairochana Yabyum. Benzo Guru Kaya Wakati Tasiri Hum. Please place your right hand palm up in your lap and your left hand palm up on top of that as we invoke the empowerment of Amagod Siddhi Karma Mudra. Benzo Guru Kaya Wakati Tasiri Hum. Let's place our puckered palms before our throat as we invoke the empowerment of Amitabha Karma Mudra. Benzo Guru Kaya Wakati Tasiri Hum. Let's place the center of our left palm over our navel, and the center of our right palm over that. Now let us invoke the empowerment of Ratnasambhava Karma Mudra. Benzo Guru Kaya Wakati Tasiri Hum. Let's place our puckered palms before our sternum as we invoke Akshobhya Karma Mudra's empowerment. Benzo Guru Kaya Wakati Tasiri Hum. The Lama dissolves into light and blends with me in our heart's inseparability. I behold the true face of the ultimate Lama, the union of spontaneous awareness and emptiness. The Lama dissolves into light and blends with me in our heart's inseparability. I behold the true face of the ultimate Lama, the union of spontaneous awareness and emptiness. The Lama dissolves into light and blends with me. In our heart's inseparability, I behold the true face of the ultimate Lama. The union of spontaneous awareness and emptiness. we come to the Powa transference of consciousness, which is a marvelously tantric way of preparing for the ultimate impermanence, the shedding of our mortal coil. I pray to the protector, Amitabha, bless me that I may master the profound path of Powa. I pray to the protector, Amitabha, bless me that I may master the profound path of Powa. I pray to the protector, Amitabha, bless me that I may master the profound path of Powa. But as practiced tantras show slicing offering, training in generosity's kindness, of communication, conduct, and commerce, the third, fourth, and fifth folds of the Buddha's Eightfold Path. I now give my body, wealth, and virtuous qualities wholeheartedly to all beings as if they had each been my kind mothers. I now give my body, wealth, and virtuous qualities wholeheartedly to all beings as if they had each been my kind mothers. I now give my body, wealth, and virtuous qualities wholeheartedly to all beings as if they had each been my kind mothers. Let us seal our practice with a bit of the well wishes. Without hindrance may I ensure enormous benefit for all beings. Without hindrance may I ensure enormous benefit for all beings. Without hindrance may I ensure enormous benefit for all beings. If you feel that I have earned it, you could give this live stream a thumbs up. You could even help support this channel. In approximately 10 2/3 hours, I would very much like to return to lead tomorrow morning's meditation class and group practice. And if you are as geeky as me, this is the way.